They told us Highway 71 would connect us. They told us roads would bring opportunity. But here in Kansas City, Highway 71 wasn't a bridge. It was a blade. It sliced through the east side, through homes, schools, and churches. And what it left behind wasn't connection. It was separation. Hi, I'm Michael Porter, and this is That Doesn't Make Sense. And today, we trace the scar that still divides Kansas City. Kansas City, mid-20th century, on the east side from Vine Street to Troost Avenue, a black community thrived. Though hemmed in by redlining and racially reconstructed covenants, it was alive with pride and resilience. Families had their own grocery stores, Milgram's and Safeway among them. Movie theaters stood along Troost. Churches like Paseo Baptist rang with hymns and hope. Schools bustled with children who were taught that education was their way forward. And at 18th and Vine, nights were filled with music. This was Kansas City's jazz district, once home to 150 or more clubs at its height. The Reno Club, the Hey Hey Club, Dante's Inferno, and the Lone Star. At midnight, the streets were so crowded you could barely walk. Count Basie, Big Joe Turner, and Charlie Parker filled the air with sound that would shape American music. This was the world on the side of Troost, a world built by black Kansan citizens for themselves. A world of stability, prosperity, and culture carved out despite segregation. But it would not last. By the 1960s, cracks were showing. Decades of systematic disinvestment were wearing down the east side. Schools fought to hold on to resources while city leaders funneled money elsewhere. In April 1968, after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Kansas City, like dozens of American cities, erupted. The National Guard was deployed. Fires burned along the east side, and windows were shattered. The unrest highlighted what many already knew. Troost Avenue had become a racial dividing line. Black neighborhoods to the east, white neighborhoods to the west. And amid this turmoil, a far greater threat loomed. A plan that would literally cut the heart out of black Kansas City. The Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956 promised America a new interstate system. Kansas City officials jumped to the opportunity. At first, the proposed South Midtown Freeway was mapped near the Country Club Plaza, an upscale white district. But the wealthy residents there, organized through the Kansas City Betterment Association, and made their oppositions heard. They lobbied, they resisted, and in the end, they won. The route was shifted east, straight through the homes, schools, and churches of Kansas City's black community. The civic leaders sold it as progress, a way to link the suburbs to downtown. But in reality, it was an act of displacement. White neighborhoods were spared. Black neighborhoods were targeted. Community leaders spoke out. Pastor D.A. Holmes of Pascal Baptist denounced the plan as an assault on black life. Freedom Incorporated, a political organization co-founded by Bruce R. Watkins, the city's first black councilman, warned of the consequences. Watkins called the project Kansas City's Berlin Wall. He said planners treated poor people's homes like disposable property. They just go in and take it and say, to hell with it. But the bulldozers rode in anyway. Over 2,000 homes were demolished to clear the way for what is now the Bruce R. Watkins Drive. Some 10,000 residents, almost entirely black, were displaced. Compensation was meager. The average payout was about $15,000 for a home, plus $3,500 for relocation. And renters, they got nothing. Entire blocks were leveled. Families forced to scatter. Some moved further east or south. Some left the city altogether. Many were pushed into large housing projects that soon concentrated poverty. One Kansas City librarian explained it simply. Once the neighborhoods sold and their houses were torn down, those who stayed saw their homes lose all value. Some families were displaced not once, but twice. First by Interstate 70 in the 60s, then by Highway 71 in the 70s and 80s. And in the long years of lawsuits and delays, empty lots turned into wastelands. Vermin and crime spread. Residents wrote to city leaders describing the fears of living in half-demolished neighborhoods. As homes disappeared, the neighborhood's backbone broke. Milgram's and Safeway grocery stores closed. Mom and pop shops shuttered. Foot traffic dried up. By the mid-1970s, the Kansas City Star called the once bustling 18th and Vine district a ghost town. The jazz scene collapsed. Nearly all the legendary clubs were gone, saved for the Mutual Musicians Foundation, where jam sessions survived like an amber in the ruins. Churches fought to endure. Pascal Baptist stood physically intact, but its congregation was scattered. Small churches closed their doors entirely. Schools faltered as well. With enrollment plummeting, D.A. Holmes Elementary, named for the very minister who opposed the highway, finally closed in 1997. The building became a senior citizen apartment, a stark reminder of what was lost. By the time the freeway finally opened in 2001, scaled down to a parkway under a 1985 consent decree, the damage was done. Mayor Quentin Lucas would later call it a scar across Kansas City. Instead of prosperity, the highway brought noise, pollution, and danger. Unlike in suburban areas, no new shopping centers or office parks sprouted along its edges. Black Kansas City absorbed the burden. The benefits flowed outward. Today, along Prospect and Benton, you still see the voids. Grassy lots where houses once stood. Boarded storefronts where businesses once thrived. The community lost not just homes, but networks of trust, stability, and belonging. As a longtime resident said, when you lost all those homes, you almost lost community. But the story doesn't end there. In 1922, Kansas City secured a $5 million federal raise grant to reconnect the East Side. The project is led by the city in partnership with Missouri Department of Transportation and with HG Consultant, a minority-owned firm managing the effort. Mayor Quentin Lucas, whose own relatives were displaced, has made it a priority. Project manager Selena Burr is coordinating community meetings and public workshops. The vision includes pedestrian bridges, safer crossings, and revitalization of Prospect Avenue as an economic hub. The residents have asked for local businesses, safe sidewalks, and green spaces to restore what was lost. The project faces constraint. The 1985 consent decree still governs Bruce R. Watkins Drive's design, but there is new urgency, new federal funding, and most importantly, new will to act. As Mayor Lucas put it, we've got to do better. Reconnecting the East Side is not just an infrastructure project. It's an admission that what was done was wrong. It is an attempt to heal a wound. It has scarred Kansas City for half a century. Highway 71 carved through lives, churches, businesses, and schools. It stole more than land. It stole belongings. But the people of Kansas City's East Side still stand. Their fight to reconnect this city is a demand to be seen, heard, and remembered. I'm Michael Porter, and this is That Doesn't Make Sense. Because silence is complicity, and memory is resistance. Music produced, recorded, mixed, and mastered by Approach, Akito Bray. Additional keys and recording by Australis. Archival photographs and materials for this episode come courtesy of the Missouri Valley Special Collections at the Kansas City Public Library, the Black Archives of Mid-America, the UMKC Libraries, the Buddy Special Collections, and more sound archives. The Kansas City Jazz Museum, the Kansas City Star Archives, KCUR, Kansas City Black History, as well as music and sound from Pixabay.com and visuals from Vidu.com. Special thanks to the families and communities who kept these memories alive and make it possible to tell this story. Please comment, like, and subscribe.